Hello YouTube and Infinite Magic Ray players. So, as per request, we're going to do a quick breakdown of the Elemental City heroes. So, they each have their own specific uses. They're all quite niche. There is not a catch-all hero that I would say that you can just, grab this hero and it be good everywhere. They're all going to have their own specific uses, and I think that it's really important that with the limited resource that we get, like it's 2.5 months if you clear all stages of Elemental City, right? So right now we just got Mamello. It's going to be 2.5 months before we can get our next hero, and it's also 5 months of time to exclusive 5 any one of these heroes, which is typically when they start to become really broken, right? So let's just quickly take a look at Donald here. So Donald, what he does, right? He is a PvP hero. That is his focus. And he does have a very niche PvE use in the Faction Abyss. He is a great hero for Faction Abyss, and I would dare say necessary for pushing those late high floors currently with the given meta. Now, granted, I dare say because I did it with Barry, but it is much easier with Donald. So that would be his main two uses: is PvP and to get you like what is it, floor 27, floor 28, floor 29, floor 30 in Faction Abyss. Like those, that would be where you use Donald, right? And you cannot really use Donald or make the most out of him until he's at least E3. And what he does at E3, and this is a PvP upgrade here, is he inflicts Shackle on the target that he inflicts Duel to. So Duel is essentially, we'll take a look at the ability. It's right here. What he does is at the beginning of the wave, so this would include auras, but he takes the enemy with the highest attack and inflicts Duel, under which the enemy can only target Donald Rebelli when attacking. Meanwhile, increases self-damage dealt to the target under Duel by 18% and reduces their damage dealt to self by 50%. So, at the beginning of each turn, inflicts Duel on a new target if no enemy is under Duel status. So what this means, right, so say Donald inflicts Duel on your Nita, and you have a cleave team, and you don't have like an Elec or something to absorb the Duel, right? What Donald's going to do is prevent your Nita from using that S4 or that S2, whichever route you go. But if you can lap the Donald, so if you can go before he takes his turn, then you can cast your skill. But if you can't, or well, no, that's Shackle. Shackle would be the cannot use your active skills. So that's why the E3 is so good, because like I said, if you go to attack him, you will be stuck with a basic attack, and then you have to actually lap him. So you have to go again before he goes in order to use a skill, which is a really strong ability, and that's why at his E3 he becomes quote-unquote viable for PvP. So if you want to use him for PvP, E3 is mandatory. So that's going to take you, of course, the 2.5 months to unlock him, and then let's see, it's like 2.5. Is it 2.5? No, I think it's like 3. It's 1 month per exclusive. Yeah, so it's going to take you 2.5 months to unlock them, and then 3 months. Granted, if you clear every stage, but 3 months to get the exclusive 3, and that's when he becomes quote unquote viable. Like I said, now if you want him to be good, like really good in PvP, this is the exclusive you're looking for. Donald Rebelli has a 50% chance to counterattack, the skill of which will be switched from Fluid Double Strike to Perfect Strike. So, where is... There we go. So, Perfect Strike is his S2, and Fluid Double Strike is his S1. So this will be what he uses, and basically, it's a really powerful AOE attack. So in your typical like GVG matchups, if you were in a high ranking and you're using like let's say your Nita Elec team to hit Donald because you want Elec to absorb the Duel, Donald still has that chance to counterattack, and since typically like a cleave team is going to be fairly squishy, you run the chance of his counterattack actually nuking your team because Donald gets built really high into crit damage, crit rate, So it becomes a pretty nasty ability, the E5. So for Donald, like I said, if you want to use him, E3, he becomes good. He becomes usable. E5, he becomes great. He becomes like a monstrous hero, a menace to society. And that is pretty much Donald in a nutshell. Of course, you know, you have to take this into consideration that, if you want this hero, if you want that, dare I say broken? I don't want to say broken because, like I said, Elec, a standard legendary. Like you can just pull Elec. At E0, he does not need any special exclusives. Can counter Donald because he will absorb the silence and the shackle and the duel. So, well, not the duel. He doesn't absorb the duel. You still have to attack Donald, but he absorbs the shackle. So that way, you can use your skill in the first turn. Now, he doesn't completely counter Donald at E5 because he can counterattack. So, in order to beat an E5 Donald, you would probably need to use, like your bunny, for example, if you were using like a traditional need a cleave team. Which we've seen in some of my previous videos, and then you would want to use the yellow egg because in case he does counterattack, he can nuke your team. So that is pretty much it. Would I recommend Donald? Honestly, I know I'm going to get some flack for saying this, but no, I would not recommend Donald. I do think he's really good for PvP. I think if PvP is your main focus, then yeah, you're probably going to want Donald, but for a resource that's going to take you, and granted, right now, I don't have any eyes, I don't have any shards. It would take me 5 months from right now to make him E5, to make him quote unquote broken, just to be countered by an Elec Bunny, which is arguably a lot easier and more feasible to get than the Dawn Rebelli is. So that's why I wouldn't necessarily recommend him. And then, of course, in Faction Abyss, he does make it a lot easier. But again, if you have a really strong berry, I've proven that you can beat it with berry. So that's what he's used for. I wouldn't recommend him unless you just really love PvP because that's going to be where you use him, right? And out of the Elemental City heroes that we have for PvP, Donald's got to be the one. The rest of them are PvE use. So let's jump into Gradies. So Gradies actually has a pretty interesting mechanic. So if we take a look at the passive skill, whenever an ally deals detonation damage, Ogradies grants the ally wind shelter by 30% of her max HP for 2 turns up to 1 layer, which additionally increases speed by 40%. Now, of course, it cannot coexist with other effects that increase speed, and then besides, when an enemy takes detonation damage dealt by an ally other than Ogradies, Ogradies will inflict 1 layer of Ember on them for 2 turns up to 3 layers. Each layer of Ember increases 10% burn damage taken by the owner. If the owner is a boss, increases burn damage taken by 20%. So, what this means, right, is that even at E0, so you've got no exclusives for your Ogradies, right? She is still viable in a burn team. She is still viable, like, for example, in Foresters, because she does have nuke capabilities. She does a lot of damage. She she does a lot of freaking damage. So she's pretty strong. At E0, she is usable. Like I said, it's going to be for your burn team. If you don't have the traditional, well, not, I don't even want to say traditional, but this new burn team where you have solo jack DPS with a bunch of turn meter boost. If you don't have like the bunny for that, you don't have like a singer for that, then you can build a more traditional burn team with Gradies, and you can use her at E0. Her exclusives, let's see. Right here. E3 grants her quite I want to say a niche PvP use. So if you read it, it says at the beginning of the ally's turn, excluding self, deal 60% attack burn damage to all enemies under burn status. There's a 60% chance to inflict 1 layer of burn on those who are not under burn status for 2 turns. So what I mean by niche PvP use. So what we're looking for is burn. And if we take a quick look at Doom Legion, we take a look at Feist. Feist has a 60% chance to inflict 1 layer of burn on all enemies for 2 turns at the beginning of each wave. So you can pair Ogradies with Feist, and every time someone on your turn takes a team, she will do that burn damage. So, like I said, it's a very niche PvP use. I believe that if we were to look in the championship and let's say past, right? Ooh, can we not view the teams that were used? That is really silly. Wow. That is really silly. But anyways, like I said, in the championship, you will see a few people using Ogradies, specifically with that niche PvP use, right? Just because it gives you the opportunity to essentially delete like a cleave team, because cleave teams don't typically have tanky builds. Like it's about going fast, it's about nuking. So you can use her to counter that in a sense. And then let's see, that I would say that this is what makes her kind of niche PvP usage here. The rest of her exclusives look more like if you were using the burn team, like for Wuthering Coast, for example. And then of course you can use her in Faction Abyss. She's really strong. Like I said, just overall a really strong hero. So you can use her for that. I think some people have used her for dungeon farming in the past. Like you can use her with Little Jack because that's what she does. She scales with other burners. She's a burn support hero. Um, so would I recommend Ogradies? Uh, Actually, I think that I would under XYZ circumstances. So XYZ circumstances being if you don't have in your Wuthering Coast team, if you do not have this specific team here, if you don't have the Lydia E2 minimum, if you don't have the Singer, if you don't have the Bunny E3, if you don't have the Rister, I think Rister E3 as well. If you don't have this specific team, yes, I would recommend Ogradies because she will put together, with like Jack, Andras, Anna, like you can build a traditional like burn team, not a single burn damage hero team, a traditional burn team. So if you don't have the team that I just showed, Ogradies is going to be very useful for your burn team. Um, I recommend her for Faction Abyss. I think she's really good for that. And then two, she's also usable, like I said, in a niche PvP application. So, I would definitely rate Ogradies as a hero that you could get. I would give her a plus just because she does have more use. So the next one on this list would be Valentina. Valentina is a bleed support. So you look at her skills, she does bleed damage. You look at this one, she does bleed damage. And then she also deals extra damage for every layer of bleed that they have. But it's bleed. Her passive is really interesting. So at the beginning of the enemy's turn, there's a 60% chance to inflict 1 layer of frost spell on the enemy for 3 turns. Besides, there is a 40% chance to inflict 1 layer of frost spell on the enemy for 3 turns every 1 layer of bleed that's inflicted. So if you can imagine, like, in your Wuthering Coast team, your bleed team, every time somebody, like, mid-rolled drops an S4 and inflicts a ton of bleed stacks, she has a chance to put the frost spell on them. And then her ultimate here deals 6 stages of 30% attack and bleed damage to all enemies, and then the last stage has a 40% chance to inflict freeze for 1 turn. Now granted, this does not help you in Wuthering Coast, because you can't freeze the boss. But Frost Spell, each layer increases bleed damage taken when decreasing freeze effect res by a certain amount. So let's see. Let's jump into the exclusives here. So E1, phenomenal. Increasing the allies' attack for 40%, that's going to be phenomenal for your bleed team. E2, increases the chance of inflicting frost spell to 60% for 1 layer of bleed for every layer of bleed inflicted If the target's speed is higher than Valentina, increases the chance to 80% instead. Frost Spell. Each layer increases the bleed damage taken by 3%. So I don't have Valentina. I really wish that Mamello had not had come out when he did, because I was planning to get her next and I wanted to test something. But maybe if somebody in the comment section does own Valentina and maybe can leave a comment and let me know. Right here, it says that when there is an enemy that has 25 layers of Frost Spell for the first time, she restores HP by 50% of max HP and acts for 1 turn immediately, and then gains, etc. So what I do not know is if there is a cap to the amount of Frost Spell that you can have. So does it stop at 25%, right? Do you only get 25 stacks of Frost Spell, or is there no cap to it? But it doesn't say. It doesn't say. And this is another problem, like I mentioned in one of my last videos, is that there isn't enough clarity in these heroes' skill descriptions. Like, we don't know how much Frost Spell can be inflicted. It doesn't say anywhere. It doesn't say anywhere. The only way that you can find out is through battle testing or through somebody that has that. And I think that it is insane that you have to spend 2.5 months if you clear all the stages. That is, if you clear all the stages. If you don't clear all the stages, it takes much longer. But if you clear all the stages, you spend 2.5 months just to find out how many layers of Frost Spell she can put. That is insane. That is ridiculous. Like, we need to know these things, because this is a time-gated as heck content. For you to E5 all these heroes, you would have to have played the game for longer than it's been around. It would take 20 months of consistent EC rotations, clear the entire thing from your first day, which is not possible. So I am very heated about, one, just the time gate, and two, the lack of clarity with this in particular. Like, this has got me frustrated. I wish that we knew how much Frostspell she could do without actually having to test, without actually having to wait for somebody to unlock her to find out. Like, this should be upfront information that we have. So I can't really dive into exactly, how beneficial each layer increases bleed damage taken by 3%. I can't tell you how useful this is going to be, because we don't know if there's a cap to the stacks. If it is infinite, if you could infinitely inflict Frost Spell, this is a broken bleed support. Like, you would build heroes like Nidrold or obviously Valentina, heroes that can inflict many layers of bleed stacks. I think Luque, for example, just heroes that can do a lot of bleed stacks in their turn. And then possibly something that reduces cooldown so they can do it again. That could be really freaking broken, but we don't know. I don't know, so I can't tell you for sure. She does read as a really good bleed support. She's the next one that I'm gonna get. I'm definitely going for Valentina. It's gonna take me 2.5 months to do it, and I'll only be able to get her like E1 to start with whenever I unlock her. But this is my next hero. And I think that at E1, that's very good. At E2, that's very good. At E3 is very good. E4, also very good. Like, all of her exclusives read very good as a bleed support. So, out of all of these heroes, if I knew more about her, I would recommend her as a EC hero. And granted, that would be it. Like, that's pretty much where her use is going to start and end. I feel like is just as a Wuthering Coast bleed supporter. I do think that she might see some use in the Forgotten, because you've got like Chardonnay, you've got Alicia, you've got bleeders there that can also benefit from this buff. So I'll kind of have to wait until I get her. It's going to be a long time. As frustrated as I am about that, I don't think that they're going to fix or update this in any way where you can get these heroes in a reasonable time frame and get the exclusives that make them decent in a reasonable time frame. So it's going to be a while, right? But I would rate her just based off of what I can read as a very like useful hero, but it's gonna be Faction Abyss and it's gonna be Wuthering Coast. Granted, they're all niche heroes, so it's hard to put one niche above the other. I'm a PvE player, so to me, Wuthering Coast is very important. To me, Faction Abyss is very important. To me, dungeons are very important. I don't care so much about the PvP. Um, I do not see her being viable at all in PvP. So if you are a PvP player, this is not your hero. If you are a PvEer, you're looking to increase your Wuthering Coast damage. You're looking to push a little bit further in the Forgotten. You're looking to increase like your bleeders. Like say bleed hero is your main um guild boss team, for example. Then you can use her to boost that damage. Like she will be a great bleed supporter. Very similar to how Grace is a bleed support. And she'll do some damage. So I like Valentina. I love Valentina. I wish that I could get her, but Mamello seemed a little bit more broken to me at the time, so I went for him next. And yeah, that's it for Valentina. Mamello. So I did a when he came out, I put a video about his skills, and I will go into it again. So his skills is very similar to Aosteen in the sense that he deducts his max HP, and that is a quote unquote detonation of sorts. Like his damage isn't necessarily applying burn stacks. Now granted he can apply burn stacks, but let's see, yeah, so he can apply deep HP burning, but what he does is he triggers the HP burning effect. So you'll use him with another HP burner because he himself, let's see, he does like it's the only way that I can really describe it is like a detonation type damage. It's not like you'd want to run him with Anji Hin, you'd want to run him with Hez, you'd want to run him with even Aosteen for the current Wuthering Coast buff that we've got. You'll want to run him with another HP burner so that way he can trigger 5 stacks of HP burn, right? Because that's going to be better than no stacks of HP burn or 1 stack of deep HP burn. So, he is a HP burn support hero, and if you notice, Donald is kind of a DD support hero. Like he does damage and he supports in the sense that he locks the enemy with the highest attack. Gradius is a burn support. Valentina is a bleed support. Mamello is a HP burn support. This 5th hero I am pretty sure will be a poison support. But anyhow, back to Mamello here. I have played with Mamello. I do like him. I'm not going to go super into his skills because I made a whole other video about it, and you're welcome to go watch that if you want to see my opinions on him. I think that this guy, for a majority of the player base, is going to be your pick. Your first EC hero. HP burn is super useful. In almost all content. Of course, it gets nerfed a bit in the dungeons past 430, except for Gwyneth and Marius. But with the deep HP burn, I've run a calculation. So say your standard HP burn, right? It gets nerfed by 50%. Well, deep HP burn increases your HP burn damage by 50%. So what happens is your HP burn starts at 150%, then gets the nerf. So instead of having a 50% HP burn nerf, it's now a 75%. So it does alleviate some of the HP burn effect. But like I said in the previous video, this guy really looks like he was made as a dungeon, faction abyss, like because of the way his skills work. Like he does, this one in particular, right? If 3 or more enemies survive, each shade of sunlight combo deals extra damage to 15% of the main target's damage taken to other enemies. If less than 3 enemies survive, increases the damage dealt by sunlight combo to the main target by 30%. So it feels like a dungeon hero. And I'm gonna put a Mamello specific video out. Because I do have him E4. I really wish that I had him E5 for this video because he gets 2 more stages. And then if somebody dies, it increases the damage. So I would like to have a Z5, but I'm still going to put a video out there and show you like potential teams that you can use this guy with. As far as like what exclusives he becomes useful, I personally think this is a hero that you can use right out the gate, E0, just like Ogradies, even just like Valentina. Like you can use all three of those heroes E0 right out the gate, and they won't be bad. It's not like Donald where you cannot really use a Donald at E0, E1, E2. You can't. Not for PvP. It's not going to do you anything. Um, if you look at E1, it increases all allies max HP cap by 50% for 2 turns. So if you've got an HP burner and their max HP cap goes up, that increases their HP burn damage. Exclusive 2 increases HP burn damage taken by enemies with Sun's Punishment by 25%. If the target is a boss, increases their damage taken by 25% additionally. So this is a hero too where every exclusive feels really significant. So like E1 is good, E2 is great, E3 is great, E4 is great, and then E5 is great. Like this is a hero that every exclusive you will feel him get stronger. Same thing with Valentina, and then Ogradies as well. And but like I said, Ogradies is being kind of overshadowed a bit with the new burn team. So if you have it, you won't necessarily go for Ogradies, but all three of those heroes, in my opinion, for PvE, you'll feel all of their exclusives. Whereas with Donald, you'll feel his E3, you'll feel his E4, and you'll feel his E5, but E0, E1, E2, not usable, not feasible. So for what I would say the majority of the players, a lot of the free-to-play players, low spenders, even mid high level whales and krakens, you know, for your PvE applications, these three heroes, they have a lot of use. I would say that if you are a big spender, Ogradies is probably not going to be on your list. And if you're PvP focused, none of them are going to be on your list except for Donald, because that's just the PvP EC hero to go for. If I were to rank these heroes from most useful to least useful, and this is just my opinion, this isn't necessarily a recommendation for you, but I would say Mamello, Tina, Grady's, Donald. That would be the order that I rank these heroes in. I know that there are going to be a lot of people that disagree. I know that, you know, you're going to have PvP players that'd be like, oh my god, why is Donald at the bottom of your list? And then you're going to have PvE players that are like, well, you're not using Mamello in dungeons because you've got E3 Little Jack. And then you're going to have people like, you're going to have people that just disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to tell you what I think. And I think that for a majority of the player base looking at their first EC hero, I think that it's going to be Mamello. And I think that Mamello is going to scale very well with the exclusives, and I think that you know, like I said, you'll be able to use him for Guild Boss, you'll be able to use him for Dungeons, you'll be able to use him for Faction Abyss, you'll be able to use him for Wuthering Coast. Like, he's got a lot of use. And that's just right now. Like, we still don't know what the poison, or if it's going to be a poison support, but we don't know what they're going to do either, the fifth hero. We don't know what that's going to be. But currently, that's the order that I'd rank them in. Very simple, right? We'll go Mamello, Tina, Grady's, Donald. Um, I do regret picking Donald first, but at the time I didn't really have a choice. You weren't able to select the order of the heroes. You had to start with Donald and then go Grady's, then go Tina, then go Mamello. But with the release of Mamello, they allowed you to pick your own. So I did jump straight into Mamello. I I really think that this is the best EC hero that we've got. I know there'll be a lot that disagree with me, but this is my opinion. So take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, take a look at these heroes, decide what you want to do. As you can see, I've got him with 1,000,000 freaking HP, like because he scales with his HP and obviously the boss HP. So I think I built him way more into HP than anything else. Yeah, so HP and like no mastery or affected. I ought to work on this affected a little bit so you can apply more deep HP burn. Which skill is that? This one. 40% chance. Yeah, so he needs a bit more effect hit, but you know, I'm still in preliminary testing phase. I haven't quite worked out what I'm gonna like the best on him, and he will be a part of my Wuthering Coast teams for this week. So I will spend more time practicing and optimizing his damage. Like obviously he's gonna want HP. Obviously he's gonna want effect hit, and what I'm trying to determine is whether or not mastery is going to be a part of that equation or not. But yeah, so thanks for listening, guys. I will kind of put a TLDR as I typically do in the description. So that way you don't have to sit through 30 minutes of me rambling and reading skills and telling you what I think and so on and so forth. You can just go right to the description because this isn't about I just want there to be as much information, much useful information as possible out there for everyone. I want everyone to be able to make informed choices. I want everyone to not have regrets in what they do in Infinite Magic Grade because I know I've had plenty. I know that I've made wrong choices and I've, suffered the consequences of, picking wrong heroes or exclusiving the wrong heroes and things like that. So I am trying to do my best. And hopefully that this helps a few people. But anyways, if you find this useful, please like and subscribe. Please keep up with my content. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for you guys, and yeah, having the feedback and interaction with you guys, that's what makes this fun to me. So anyways, that's it for this video. Please expect a Mamello Hero Spotlight quite soon. Not necessarily a spotlight because we're not going to go too terribly in depth in his skills, but we are going to show you our findings and how we build him, how we like him to run, and like we'll even demonstrate like his use in Faction Abyss or Guild Boss or Tower, like Tower of Mark or Wuthering Coast. We'll put all this stuff together so that way you guys can see what he does and decide if you agree with me, if you think that Mamello is a good first choice. Because I know a lot of you out here are looking at the EC heroes, and like I know, the resources are hard to come by, and making the wrong choice will be very painful. So, anyways, thank you guys for stopping by. That's it for this video. I hope to catch you guys on the next one. All right, bye.